Okay, guys. So this is going to be segment 2 of the Sober Living series. 2 and 3, actually, because boredom is 2, compulsive actions and behaviors is 3. So, we are going to talk about boredom and compulsive behaviors during recovery, and how boredom and compulsive thinking and behaviors tie in with each other during recovery. How, my opinion and how they tie in together. If anyone has a different opinion, they are more than welcome to state it in the comments. So, feeling bored is a frequent issue for those in recovery. And though the issue may seem tiny, it can jeopardize recovery by leading to relapse. A lot of people will think, oh, it's just boredom. Because boredom to normal people is different to those in recovery. Boredom is the devil's playground when it comes to recovering addicts, because that can lead to wanting to use, and that leads to compulsive thoughts, compulsive actions, compulsive behaviors. So when someone is new to recovery, they're continuously presented with the people, places, and things related to past use. These triggers can create cravings for alcohol or other drugs, which then leads to relapse and continued addiction. Although many don't initially think of it, boredom is a powerful feeling. Boredom is a powerful trigger in substance use disorder. If someone is newly sober and feeling bored, they could look to substance use as a way to cure boredom and increase excitement in their life. So boredom is a huge, huge problem for addicts. You go from living a life of excitement and always getting high or drunk to not doing that anymore. And for a lot, that can leave an empty space, a void, and creates boredom, because your life just isn't as interesting as it was when you were using or drinking. And if you guys notice bruising or swelling in this area, I'm still recovering from my tooth procedure, so that's why, don't worry, I'm okay. Moving on. Is it boredom or is it something else? Boredom is a common aspect of recovery, especially in the earliest stages, because of the impact of alcohol and other drugs in the brain. A person using substances exposes their brain to tremendous amounts of brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. The brain naturally releases neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, I do believe, as a way to reward a behavior and encourage you to repeat it. It's basically the Pavlovian experience, where you're trained to recognize something as a reward if you do a certain action enough. A person who eats a good meal, exercises, has sex, gambles, stuff like that, will experience a release of dopamine and other neurotransmitters to reinforce the positive action. So we're talking about positive actions here. Walking, having intimate relations, shopping and going out and getting the stuff you need, paying bills, all that can release dopamine and make you feel good. Make you feel euphoric about it too. Drugs, unlike the natural reinforcers we already have, create a huge release of dopamine in the brain that promotes strong feelings of pleasure, happiness, and satisfaction. Over time, the brain becomes accustomed to this artificially high dopamine level, and substance use must continue and escalate as a way to re-experience and maintain this desirable feeling. That's why as an addict, you have to continue using. You can't just use once and be like, okay, I'm good for the rest of whatever. You have to keep using. And your tolerance goes up, so you have to continue to use more and more and higher doses, which is why it leads to overdose, because people are just like, I want to get high right away and do everything right away. And that's why it's referred to as chasing the dragon too, because you have to continue to chase that high in order to maintain that feeling of, I feel great, I feel like I'm on top of the world, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. That's just the horrible thinking of an addict. You have to continue to chase the high if you want to stay fine, if you want to stay normal, if you don't want to hurt, if you don't want to be sick. When use ends, everyday actions seem much less rewarding and exciting due to the lower dopamine levels. Instead of the person feeling like they're jetting down a runway at 200 miles an hour, it feels like life is moving in slow motion. With lower rewards, normal behaviors are less appealing and people find themselves feeling bored. As I will reiterate throughout this segment, boredom leads to compulsive thoughts, which lead to compulsive behaviors and actions. So, I am the perfect example of boredom because I start to do naughty things when I'm bored. I'm in a relationship and I have talked to other people in the past and almost ruined my relationship because I'm bored and jobless at the moment, and compulsive thoughts lead to compulsive actions, which was in my case talking to people I shouldn't have been talking to. The dangers of boredom when in recovery. Boredom can be problematic for anyone, but more so with people who are in recovery, and that can be dangerous. Being bored in recovery can result in a number of regretful decisions, just talking to other people when you shouldn't be, as people search for entertainment, excitement, and feelings of connection. When bored, people may overspend money, engage in hazardous or illegal behavior like gambling or theft, stay inside and isolate, have risky sexual encounters with others, spend time with negative influences, with unwanted consequences like financial chaos, legal involvement, STDs, and unplanned pregnancies. The impact of boredom can jeopardize the mental health, physical health, and recovery of the individual. Perhaps the most significant danger of boredom is relapse, because ultimately that is what any addict is trying to avoid, is relapse. Relapse is always unsafe, but especially during early recovery. Without a steady supply of drugs, the brain begins to lose its tolerance to substances. This is why when you've had so long without doing drugs, it is not good to do it at all, because you have been without these high doses for so long that your brain almost forgets it, and you overdose, and you can possibly pass away. If the person then consumes a high dose, an overdose is likely, since the brain is not prepared for the effects. That's why if you do relapse, it's always best to use a tiny amount. I don't condone relapse. I don't recommend it. But if you're going to go that route, which a lot of people do a tiny dose. It's not safe to do a high dose because you're not the same addict you used to be. You're not the same person. You don't have the same tolerance you used to have. So, tiny doses, if anything. Again, please, I'm not condoning relapse or anything like that. I'm just saying, if the inevitable happens, Keep it simple and keep it small. Overdoses can also create a series of negative consequences. You affect the people around you, the people who know you, people who love you. In some instances, an overdose can lead to a coma or death. So anyone facing a relapse or overdose should always seek professional treatment from an addiction professional. Please, if you are facing a relapse and you want to stay sober, please get help from a drug counselor. Reach out to me. Comment on one of my videos. Reach out to me and tell me, hey, I really need your help. And we'll contact each other. I will stay in contact with you as long as I need to in order for you to not relapse. So if you're having a hard time, please feel free to let me know, and I will help as best as I can from where I'm at. How to overcome boredom in recovery. Overcoming boredom in recovery is not an easy task. It's a skill that takes effort over a long period of time to act and react to the challenges of recovery. To overcome the power of boredom, a person must become more involved or active in their recovery. So you have to want it. Again, that is the key of recovery, period, is that you have to want it. Boredom grows anytime there's a lack of action. And the idle mind is the devil's playground. Keep your mind busy. Keep yourself busy. Fortunately, there are many things you can do to overcome boredom in recovery. These are just a few ideas. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is defined as the ability to be fully present and aware of yourself and your surroundings, while not being reactive or overwhelmed by those things. So you're in your moment. You're in the here and now. And you know your situation, but you're not going to allow yourself to react or be overwhelmed or to be angry. You are just there. That is mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness, a person can get in touch with their senses to feel, hear, smell, taste, and see the world around them. They will also pay more attention to their thoughts and feelings to understand how people, places, and things trigger boredom and the desire to use substances. One way to practice mindfulness is through meditation. Meditation has been recommended for addiction recovery because of the way it contributes to creating new neural pathways in the brain. By sitting with one's boredom and using these mindfulness skills, the boredom loses its power and control over you. So, as long as you are in your moment and you're practicing mindfulness, that boredom is not going to have a hold on you. Number 2, join a support group. Other people are another great way to fight boredom. That works really well for me. If I'm feeling bored or depressed or sad, I go hang out with someone. I try to anyway, with my mom at least. Because having other people around really, really does help. Fortunately, groups of people are frequently available to aid those in recovery. Addiction support groups like AA meetings for those in recovery from alcohol use, and NA meetings for those in recovery from other substances. Narcotics Anonymous is what it is. Can offer the benefit of social engagement and fellowship. These qualities may seem impossible to find elsewhere. Joining a meeting will cure the boredom for that moment, and forming connections with others outside of the group setting can help reduce boredom throughout the days. The group may be able to assist with providing or finding healthy, sober activities. My butt. Support groups. Continuing on the support groups. Plenty of support groups are available in person and online for those interested in supplementing their professional addiction treatment. Those seeking a support group should consider the SAMHSA self-help and peer support groups, SAMHSA's National Helpline, and Smart Recovery for people not interested in the traditional 12-step support group model. You can also find support groups through a therapist, doctor, or word of mouth from acquaintances with addiction recovery experience. Smart Recovery I will be going over next year, the beginning of next year, with my counselors. So whatever they go over with me, I will be going over on the videos with you guys. So, Smart Recovery, the self-help and peer support groups, SAMHSA's National Helpline, Matrix, Smart Recovery groups, those are all groups that will help you. And then Matrix and Smart are, again, like it said, groups for people who are not interested in the 12-step model. The Matrix and Smart Recovery groups are way different from the 12-step model, and they're a lot comfier. They're smaller groups, concentrated more on helping the person than, on the spiritual aspect of the recovery process. So, number 3, trying something new. At one point during recovery, you may struggle with finding enjoyment or sober fun, which can lead to thinking that boredom is inescapable and inevitable, or after attempting to recapture the excitement and interest of activities that were previously pleasurable, only to find them no longer appealing. It's natural to become disappointed. These experiences can be discouraging and threaten your recovery goals. It can also cause depression if you're not already, that's another sign of depression, is finding lack of pleasure in things that you used to find pleasurable. There is hope, though. Trying new things can help you find and explore new levels of enjoyment, delight, and even purpose. These new activities can be very simple or require extensive commitment. They can be pursued alone or with a trusted, healthy partner or support network. Options include activities like taking a walk, exploring various hobbies that seem appealing, exploring in general. I like to go ghost hunting, and I should put that on my videos more, but I never really catch anything because we're not in an extremely haunted area, you know what I mean? So I do like to do that. I love exploring abandoned areas. Writing in a journal, joining a gym, playing or listening to music, registering for a class or school, reading a variety of books, magazines, and newspapers, cooking healthy meals and focusing on nutrition, creating a daily schedule to follow, and that could mean you create a schedule to keep you structured. I actually have a little paper, a stack of papers where it's got schedules mapped out for you. You just write down your schedule, and that actually helps keep my routine going. Wake up, make the bed, vacuum if it needs to be vacuumed, do the dishes from the night before, pick up from the night before, and make it just look nice in general. And it's a routine, and it goes. Laundry is weekly. Making the bed is daily. Brushing your teeth is daily. Stuff like that. That routine can actually very much help someone in addiction recovery. Joining or coaching a sports team. That can be fun, especially if you're with younger kids. You have younger kids running around, playing around. Or if you're on the opposite side and you're joining a sports team, that can both keep you active and healthy and keep your mind busy as well. Keep you from becoming bored. Or creating art through painting, drawing, or sculpting. I have a little example here, little canvas example. I am always trying to find things to keep my mind busy in order to avoid extenuating circumstances. So I found these at Walmart yesterday and decided to paint one. They're for 6-year-olds and up, but I love painting and it's cute as hell. Those that know me know I love cute and anything cute, and it kept me busy. You have to concentrate hard enough to stick in the lines, to make sure, do a second coat, make it look nice and even, and I'm not done with it yet. I still have the background back here to do, but it was something that kept me busy for a good 2 hours almost, like an hour and a half. So, whatever the activity, consistency is where it's at. You want to be consistent with it. The first try may be uncomfortable or unfulfilling, but with practice, the results will improve and it may become more manageable and more enjoyable over time. Of course, not every new activity will spark a positive reaction, so it's important to not give up and continue to experiment if the first attempt falls flat. Don't give up just because you find one activity not to your liking. Move on to the next activity. If that doesn't give you a liking, move on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, until you find one that you like. So we're moving on to compulsive behaviors and actions now, guys. Research shows that in rare cases, it is possible to pick up compulsive behaviors in recovery. These actions may seem healthy or normal on the surface, but it is important to get all compulsive behavior in check for long-term success. You don't want compulsivity. Not all the time. It's okay to be, let's on impulse be like, or on compulsivity, like, let's go to the store and go shopping. As long as you're not blowing thousands of dollars all the time. Compulsive, there are some healthy compulsive behaviors, but if you're doing them all the time, that's kind of what makes them compulsive. How do compulsive behaviors take hold? The cessation of substance use can be a difficult battle for 2 key reasons. Addiction takes up time, and addiction changes the brain. Those caught up in its throes find themselves fully occupied by the process of obtaining, using, and recovering from their drugs of choice. This leaves very little time for hobbies, physical activity, or sometimes even one's career. After someone attends a treatment program, they no longer devote entire days to substance abuse. If not properly anticipated and addressed, the resulting boredom can lead individuals to thrill-seek in other areas. Another concern can be best summed up as brain chemistry. Ongoing substance use changes the levels of certain neurotransmitters in the brain's reward center. This means that in early recovery, individuals may be unconsciously drawn to activities that create those familiar dopamine bursts. Exercise, for example, releases feel-good endorphins that create a natural high. But even then, you can exercise too much too. There's always got to be a balance. Some people may be so excited about this feeling that they neglect to self-regulate, which means they overdo it. This is the pathway to compulsive behaviors in recovery. So compulsive behaviors are something that happen all the time. Boom, 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 boom. You find out that something gives you a rush of endorphins. Let's you shopping again. I obviously have a shopping addiction that I have gotten over, a hold over. So shopping gives you a rush of endorphins, and you find that out, well, you continue to do it. And you do it over and over and over until it starts to become a real problem. Examples of compulsive behavior in recovery. Even when a person has put down their drink or drug for good, there is still a possibility that they will develop behaviors that appear addictive in nature. These often include working, which is workaholism, sexual activity, gambling, exercise, shopping, tech use, which could come out as video game or internet addiction. This can be complicated for loved ones to address. While devoting yourself to work or exercise may seem like a good thing, especially after so much struggle, a lack of moderation can indicate real psychological problems. Where is the line between compulsive and normal? So what is healthy? We're back on that. What is healthy and what is compulsive? In recovery, there are a few general guidelines about life after treatment. First, those who have completed a program are encouraged to avoid other addictive substances. This means that a person who received treatment for an alcohol use disorder should steer clear of prescription opioids, marijuana, and cocaine. However, there is more that people should be mindful of. I smoke the occasional marijuana, but it is not a constant thing. I've actually gotten much better. I used to smoke a lot, but now it's every few hours, and I don't need it. I can go without it, days too, if I have to. It's just something that helps with a lot of my anxiety disorders. It's more natural than, say, heroin or meth is. And it's easier to deal with my anxiety disorder because of it, so I don't agree very much on the marijuana part. Yes, you can be addicted to it, as you can be addicted to anything, but that helps me, in all honesty. Next, individuals should avoid behaviors that promote the same type of secrecy or rush to their addiction. Or rush as their addiction did. If they find themselves shopping to cope with a bad performance review, struggling to manage their money, or hiding purchases from their spouse, for example, their buying may have become a problem. Finally, they ought to feel comfortable working with a continuing care counselor. If they are tempted to downplay their exercise regime due to a fear of negative feedback, it's a sure sign that compulsive behavior is at play. Here we go. Like I said, recovery is all about balance. If you're going to go exercise, do it in excess. Do it in little increments here and there. Don't do it crazy. If you're going to go shopping, make sure you have a budget that's within a healthy range. Even drinking. If you're going to drink, just keep it to a couple drinks. 3 at the most. But after that, you're just drinking to get drunk. Marijuana. If you're going to smoke it, do it in little bits. And don't make it your whole world. It's all about balance, you guys. In order to successfully avoid a spiral into compulsive behaviors, those who are newly sober and clean are encouraged to seek outside help. And support, help, friends, family, open conversations with one's sponsor, physicians, psychologists, treatment teams can prevent healthy behaviors from escalating into disordered behavior. The relationship between OCD and addiction. No discussion of compulsive behaviors in recovery would be complete without a disclaimer about OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD can co-occur with a substance abuse disorder. In this case, a compulsion is best defined as an irresistible urge to do something. If you think about it and then you just can't stop thinking about it, you have this urge to just do it, that is a compulsion. That is something that's really hard to ignore. A person may become fearful and anxious if they are unable to work out, go to the office, or spend time online. They may not know what exactly will happen if they aren't able to do so, but they know it will be bad. This is OCD. Those diagnosed with OCD perform specific called rituals to alleviate anxiety. They continue to behave this way even if they understand that the choices they're making are irrational. Hand washing, checking doors, and cleaning are all common rituals for OCD individuals. It's not uncommon for them to fixate on concerns such as germs, numbers, or disorganization. My boyfriend is OCD, and he does get very anxious when it comes to disorganization, messes. No. He sees a mess and it stays there longer than a day or two, he starts to get extremely nervous. That is OCD. In many cases, signs of OCD would have appeared earlier in life than the addiction itself. Their symptoms may have been affected by substance use. Some individuals attempt to drink or do drugs in an effort to cope with the constant anxiety and strain of OCD. However, this is different from the actions discussed previously. The diagnosis of OCD should be considered distinct from compulsive behaviors that develop only after the treatment of a substance abuse disorder, especially if the behaviors in question are in pursuit of a rush and not in an attempt to alleviate anxiety. So, the difference between OCD and compulsive behaviors? OCD, you have this intense anxiety if you can't perform your compulsion. Compulsive behaviors are if you're trying to do these actions in pursuit of a rush. That's the difference between them. And how do boredom and compulsive behaviors tie in together? Well, boredom creates compulsivity. If you do not have enough to do around you, if you can't make yourself busy, if you can't make yourself useful, it tends to create compulsive thoughts. And then you end up doing things that are like, oh, hey, I'm going to go do this. Boom. Because as addicts, we are compulsive users, compulsive drinkers, just happens. If we get started and we don't have control of ourselves, it gets out of control. So, that was the boredom and compulsivity section. Segments 2 and 3. So the next segment we will be doing, I do believe, depression and recovery. Let me check my notes here. Yes, depression and recovery. So I've already got my notes for that one. And I'm going to be going over some relaxation techniques as well, because the relaxation techniques help with not only anxiety, but depression as well. The segment after we will be working on, segment 5, will be relationships and recovery. And this segment is going to be a very long segment because there's doing my research, there was just so much to read on relationships and recovery. And we will